But you know, cool. I mean, there's nothing like Comic-Con.
There's nothing like Comic-Con. There's nothing like getting to show something you've worked on. And you know, we've had this idea for 8 years. So the fact that we actually just showed it is kind of a
it's surreal.
It's a surreal.
And this is your show.
Yeah.
This is our show. There's a part of me that looks up at all this and thinks we just pulled the greatest con in the world.
Yeah. Somehow we got ABC to do.
Oh yeah, because the Tron thing was really random too, right?
Yeah, Tron. Yeah. Well, that was a small independent.
But here's the thing, like,
what a remarkable con you're pulling.
But the thing for me and Eddie is we approach everything as fans, and it's that thing of like, what would be cool? What would we want to see? So when we actually get to do something, it still is mind-boggling to us.
So what was it like, you know, working on Lost for 6 years and then coming out and having your own show and finally being in control of something that's completely...
It was really terrifying, and it was really frightening because, to be honest, even though we were, you know, we eventually became executive producers on Lost, we always got to run to Damon and Carl.
There was always a thing.
There was always the buck stop with them, and now it stops with us, and that is like, what? Why are you asking me? I don't know anything.
But you surrounded yourself with really seasoned people on your staff, so I think you kind of built an A-team.
Well, the greatest thing so far has been is we've been very lucky to get all of our, you know, #1 choices. You know, Jane Espenson. We've been fans within Buffy.
Forever.
In fact, like we wanted to be the Jane Espenson of Lost. And then the actors, like we wrote that part for Ginnifer Goodwin, and we couldn't believe she said yes. And we actually wrote the part for Robert Carlyle, and we got it. And these were in our heads, and they were like, and you know, you go to casting, you say, we'd like to, Jennifer's coming out for 6 years of Big Love, she's not doing TV, she's passed on everything. Well, can you just send it?
That's remarkable, because the casting process is usually a crapshoot.
And we've been very...
We're so fortunate.
Yeah, and this is the one thing you learn is that it's a collaboration. It may come from our minds, but everyone has to work together to bring it together. Mark Mylod, who directed this, is like... It's just amazing, you know, and the cast is so strong, and the writers, and everyone just kind of works together to make this thing.
You've been thinking about this for 8 years, but this year is the year of the fairy tale.
Yeah,
everybody's doing it.
TV, movie. It is crazy because 8 years ago when we pitched it to networks, they all passed, literally. But I think in a lot of ways, though, being on Lost helped us to learn how to tell a story better. And I think it's also time. You know, Snow White came out in, was it 1937, which was in the Depression. And this is a show about hope. And so when you look around in the economy today and the mood of the world, I feel like fairy tales are great because, you know, they're really about hope and change. You can be sweeping up for your stepmom, and then the next moment you go to the ball and your life has changed. And I think that's what our show's about, is hope.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's such an array of fairy tales to kind of go through.
Yeah.
Were you very decisive in picking which fairy tales, and are you going to also pick obscure ones, perhaps?
Well, you know, it's there is a deep well from which to draw, but we started with Snow White and Prince Charming. We have these core characters with the Evil Queen and with all these characters that we really are excited to explore. But for us, there was the fun of also being able to pull in some of the other characters.
The mashups is fun for the show, and the reason we did Snow White and Prince Charming because we thought, well, if you were going to take away a happy ending, who has a happier ending than Snow White? So to rip that from them says, to us, like, oh, this is a bad curse.
I gotta say, you have done one thing I think that is an improvement over Lost, which is that you aren't going to have the Walt problem, the Walt issue of aging. I mean, at least your child actor will age in real time, I would assume, right?
Yeah, well, listen, I'll be honest with you. We are trying very hard to not get him to, but apparently there's some ethics involved
But seriously, I mean, is that a concern or an issue for you that you have one of your major characters as a child?
It isn't right now. People have to like the show.
Yeah.
So I can't think about season 2. I can't even think about. They've ordered 12 episodes. We have to make those the best 12 episodes. And if we are lucky enough to watch him graduate from high school, then thank God.
But that said, when we end with the clock tick, time is moving forward, and we're not tied to the real time. So there is a little wiggle room if his voice changes.
Yeah, day 42 doesn't happen in year 3. So.
No, in fact, it was like season 5. We go, hey, did you know it's Christmas on the island? And we're like, that's all we are?
Yeah.
Are you going to consistently put stuff in for Lost fans, or are you going to kind of
We can't help ourselves.
We can't help ourselves. I mean, it's just, after 6 years, that was our family, so it's hard not to.
Did they let you get away with doing any Lost inside jokes for Tron? I never got to.
The numbers are in Tron. They're on one of the recognizers on one of the displays. I think there was another one we did.
Yeah.
I'm totally blanking.
Yeah, but the key is how we're going to get the Tron one in this, and what we're
That's gonna be tricky.
Well, what we're thinking is there might be the computer tech guy's Alan Bradley. So,
Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, the Disney, Disney obviously being sort of an influence in fairy tales, and you guys are on ABC. So, is there going to be any sort of allusion to Disney versions of fairy tales, or is this really going to be try to stay as apart from that as possible?
Well, I think we're influenced by them. We're doing the Jiminy Cricket probably from the movie and not the actual story, but we're not interested in retelling the fairy tales. We're interested in telling you the parts you didn't know.
Right.
And so,
but that's kind of the iconography of Disney is what's so interesting to us, because that's how so many of us really experience them for the first time. Snow White, is from 1937, but we've all seen it at different points whenever we were growing up. It's a perennial. So it's using that as a jumping off point to do what Eddie's saying, which is to tell what we see as the parts of these stories that you don't know is what's exciting to us.
The more, grown-up parts, the more dark parts.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and for us, it's we want to take the characters from icon to people. So we're not just interested in Snow White being an animated character. We're interested in her being a woman. And one of our favorite scenes in the pilot was when Prince Charming walks in and he sees her and he goes, "We can't keep having the same conversation." And anyone who has married or a significant other know when you look at your spouse and you go, "Oh, really again?" And that's what we love about it, is trying to really bring them into real people.